Hey everyone, Eric Roth here. It is Friday the 13th, May 2022, and we are excited to be hosting our 2022 halftime report for 10-minute trades. And let me just pause right here and make sure that everyone can hear me clearly, everyone can see my slide. I know that we have a very intimate group today, and I'm really happy about that because I feel like today's presentation, not to overpromise, but I really feel like this is going to be a really awesome event. Like I feel like this is going to be one of the best events that myself and Leigh, who I'm going to introduce in a second, are going to be doing today because it's unscripted and we have a lot of topics though that I kind of thought about and I think are going to be really interesting. So let me see how we're doing in the question box here or in the chat box. Yep, I see David. Hey David, how you doing? Thanks for your help. And I'm assuming everyone else can hear me too. Again, Eric Roth here. Usually you're probably used to listening to Leigh. And with that, why don't I go ahead and I don't really need to introduce Leigh, but let me just welcome Leigh to the halftime report. How's it going, Leigh?
Going good. I'm assuming everyone can hear me as well, so let me know if you can hear me. And we'll get started. I do have one thing that you have to do for me. You have to call this podcast 24 because I already did podcast 25.
This is 24?
Yeah, this has to be podcast 24.
Okay, well, that's funny. Oh, hey, Stephen Nichols, how you doing? Oh, and good to see you, bud. All right, guys, so this is episode 24 of our 10-minute trades podcast, our halftime report. Seriously, this is a great topic we have today. As you know, as I mentioned already, right, we're in the middle of May, and in literally less than 2 weeks, it's Memorial Day weekend, so Q2 is pretty much wrapping up. And I instead of waiting for June, I wanted to just go ahead and do a halftime report now and kind of cover all the big things that have happened with 10-minute trades in Q1 and Q2. And this is kind of what I meant before about why I feel like this is going to be such an awesome conversation today, is because you're going to see that really going to go behind the scenes here, because Leigh and I, we're very comfortable in interacting with our members, right? We do it every single day. Leigh does it every single day in the trade room, and we want to share with you a little bit about behind the scenes, a little bit more about what we are working on and some of the dynamics of even putting together a daily trade room. So that's what I mean and why it's going to be exciting. So let's start off let's kick things off. Quick disclaimer, even though today is not really going to be heavy on actual trading education, but as always, the stuff that we talk about is for educational purposes only. And keep in mind, when you're trading, there's lots of risks involved, and you should be very careful with whatever trading that you do. All right, so with that said, our 10-year anniversary. You're going to hear about our 10-year anniversary all year long. I'm just going to warn you. And the reason why is it's a very big milestone. I was listening to this business podcast the other day, and I think a lot of people, again, listening today, I'm sure many of you guys have heard about the statistic about how, I don't know, I think it's 80, I don't want to butcher the statistics, but it's something about like 80% of the businesses go out of business in the first 5 years. But then what other people don't realize is that the ones that make it to 10 years, like even less, like it's a really small percentage of businesses that last 10 years. So very proud about it. And it's not only about making it 10 years. We've actually, in the last 2 years, I 100%, right? There's been times in our business, I would say in between 2015 and 2020, where I didn't really see us, breaking out, so to speak. It was kind of like we were in a status quo operation. But I would say in the last 2 years, thanks to a couple of different things, we've really taken a shift and a shift forward where not only have we attracted a lot more people to our program, but we really spiced things up a lot. So let me get into some of those things that I'm talking about. And first and foremost, I'd like to, talk about some of the things that really stand out when I think back about the 10-year journey to today in 2022. There's different things that stand out to me. Let me first get Leigh. Leigh joined I think this is your fifth year, correctly?
I think it might be six, believe it or not.
Yeah, you're right. Actually,
I
I
think
do.
it's going on six.
Yeah, I do believe it. I do believe it. So why don't I start with you, Leigh? Like, and we could kick it back and forth a little bit, right? And again, I want to share with people what are some of the memorable highlights. And I'm not going to tell you what to say. I obviously give you credit for putting together our trade room, but even from when you were a member, maybe you also have some memorable things that come to mind.
So I definitely do. I remember when I got here, there used to be this crazy little web browser based room where after an event took place, you could go into that room and talk to people about the trades. But so when I got here, I would go into that room and there'd be like one person there. There never was anybody in there. And I was thinking to myself, now, wait a minute, I feel so lonely after these trades. I don't know how to get advice. I don't know what to do. What if I have to make a change? And so that's when I started writing you and Jay about about a job. I mean, it was almost a couple of months after I joined, I realized that there was a perfect opportunity for me to work here because there was, an opportunity to make things very different that I thought would help what was a great software program and a great concept that we're still using today. And that, so my memory is the crazy chat room that really wasn't a trade room. And, the important fact that you need somewhere to go, people to talk to after and during trades. And I think that's probably what led to the most dramatic changes in the company, if you think about it, because everything now flows from the trade room. Not because I run it, not because I'm the moderator, but it's the nature of this type of a business. It's an informational business and it's got to be focused somewhere and it needs real time support and handholding. So that's my view of how everything started.
Sure. No, it's awesome. And I do remember that chat room because I actually, it feels like I'm talking about the 80s and 90s with how outdated that chat room was. But
Yeah.
basically, the backstory was right before, actual kind of trade rooms, or well, yeah, I mean, this is what, 2016, 20. I worked with somebody that helped me build my trading computer. His name was Oleg, and he basically built a customized like chat room, and that's what we used to do. It used to be a chat room, and we used to talk to before the trade room was all in chat mode, and we'd actually give people like kind of protocols, if you will, about like specifying whether it's your recount of the trade, whether it was live or in sim. And I remember those. Unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, the thing that comes to my mind is it's always fine in that kind of setting when we're having winning trades. But what's very difficult is if there is a losing trade and being able to relate and connect. And I remember there were some times where I called Jay, who's not with us on today's halftime report, where Jay, I called him in Hawaii. Remember, he's in a different time zone, which is why a lot of times it's just myself and Leigh. Jay's in a different time zone, and calling him to get him in. I need some extra feedback because before Leigh, Jay was kind of the guy that I used to lean on a lot for more of the trading expertise. Um, all right, so that's a pretty cool memory, and I also want to say for those that are listening in, some of the stuff that I'm talking about, in case it doesn't excite you, I want you mentioned. I think you mentioned software. One of the things that we'll be sharing coming up soon is very exciting with our 10-year anniversary, our JV version 10 software release, which, as you may, there are a few people we invited in December, and we're weeks actually days away from it being released. So stick around because we're going to get into that. For me, I would say there's a lot of things I could talk about, but I'll first share a memory with to everyone about like you, right? Because you remember first. One of my first experiences is just, when I was starting out, I was working for a large CPA firm at the time, a big four CPA firm, and I was doing a lot of traveling. And I remember making a couple $100 on a jobs report trading crude oil. Believe it or not, we used to trade crude oil, and to me it was just eye-opening because I was hustling and bustling, running, traveling to random cities, doing all these travel engagements, and literally in one trade, in a couple seconds, in the comfort of my hotel room, and this was actually, I remember, the W Hotel in downtown Minneapolis. I just made pretty much the same amount of money I was going to be making for the whole day of grinding, and that's what really got me excited. And I feel like whether you're listening now, in fact, maybe that's a quick question to everybody. Just if you can, type if you're a current member or if you're just a 10-minute trade subscriber. Good to know who we're connecting with today. But at that moment, that's when I had the realization that, wow, uh, that was an eye-opening moment for me, because even today we have a part where I'm going to ask Leigh to go over the best trades, and I could show you, and there's people who are above and beyond us on YouTube that are making, tens of thousands or millions of dollars, right? And I still don't think it's as impactful until you yourself have that success. And I think what's cool about us is that while we are shooting for the moon, we're very realistic and we deal with folks in the whole gambit. And even just making a couple $100 or $100, it's real and something that we do every single day. So that's one quick memory. And then I would say another quick thought, a memorable highlight. I'm trying to think. There's just so many. I would say our most recently, of course, bringing Leon is definitely been the greatest thing ever. And Leigh doesn't claim to be the best trader. I don't claim to be the best trader, but I'll tell you that he is one of the best trader moderators. And now, why do I say that? Well, I say that because I'm pretty. I enjoy how he leads the conversation. But believe it or not, we've been poached. Leigh has been poached. There's been other people that have been trying to steal Leigh away from us because they recognize that Leigh, just his personality and being able to make what could be a very I don't want to use the word serious, but this is serious business. A lot of times you deal with players in this arena that they don't really have a personality to them. It's very hard to follow that person. And for me personally, when I work on personal development, I know it may sound kind of superficial, but like I need to like the person's voice. I need to really connect with that person. Who he is as a person, or who or she is as a person, and you know, I think that's what's really great about Leigh. So let me pivot here, but I was going to say our rebrand, right? In the last 2.5 years, there's somebody that Leigh and I have worked very close with that really helped us in kind of rebranding, not just our, not on a marketing sense, the 10-minute trades, but really helped us take a lot of the things like for example, the HIRA, right? We used to call it the HIRA, the High Impact Report Alert, and helped us to really rebrand a lot of the things that we do, the Daily Market Move Report. And now I really feel like I just feel proud about who we are and the 10-minute trades. And when you go into our website, all the different products or all the different pieces of content, I really think there's a lot of thought behind it. So to me, this last 2.5 years has been a really exciting journey. So let's move on um, to trading performance, because I know a lot of people, that's what caught your attention. Anything you want to add on about the last 2 years, Leigh, about us, the rebranding, and beyond the marketing side? Like what are some of the things that you think have been a really big positive from that? And
Well, so obviously, I think the most important things are realizing the amount of testing that we had to increase in the back end of things. How we had to change from the high impact report alert to a more meaningful trade report each day. So I think that was a very important change that we made also. And that was part of the rebrand. When we changed to 10-minute trades, we changed the reports. And so I think that was a big change also for the best.
gotcha. And by the way, I see we have several current members, and we have some really old school members that have been with us from the very beginning. And Brian just pointed out a memory, which I don't know why I didn't share it, but it's the memorable trade that we use it in some of our videos, where once while I was in the Majestic Deli in Midtown Manhattan, and on my lunch break, the trade that we took this week, the WASD trade, I made $700, over $700 trading one contract, and I was on a laptop with a 4G MiFi connection from Verizon. I came up to a family that was sitting down and eating, and I asked them if I could sit next to them because I wanted to be next to the window so I could get a little bit better connection, and made the $700. And then while that was happening, the gentleman was making me a tuna salad sandwich. I just remember tipping the guy very nicely, and I just felt like that's what makes it special. You know, the fact that whatever it is that you do currently, that when these reports come out, you could sneak away for 10 minutes and be able to take advantage of them and profit from them, and not just sit on the sidelines, which is what most people have been doing the last 2.5 years, and complaining about X and Y and Z, and the same news that people are complaining about, for example, inflation, right? We're actually, our mindset isn't to go into the politics of all that. It's at least for me, it's about that entrepreneur spirit of how do we make money on that stuff, right? And we could talk about it afterwards, but let's be able to profit on that. So thank you, Brian. And you're right. There's a lot more other trading stories I come to mind. All right, so let's move on to trading performance. Let's talk about. I'm gonna kind of let Leigh do a lot of the leading here and the talking, because you know who could talk better about Q1, Q2 than our trading director Leigh, who's literally spent hundreds of hours in the trade room in the last 6 months with our members. Let's start off with Q1 because I want to distinguish Q1 from Q2. I remember in Q1 of this year, starting off in January. Um, I know we have one of the bullets there about the stock earnings. I know that that's one of the ways we kicked off the year was in trading earnings. But let you give a kind of overview analysis of how you would describe Q1 in a nutshell.
So I would say Q1 was challenging because I was expecting similar beginning of the year to what we had the year before, which was a very good beginning for breakout trades. And it wound up being a little bit more difficult. So, and it seems like every year, there's new challenges. We're dealing with a war now, we're dealing with inflation. There's always these challenges. So, the main thing that we're always trying to do is to keep on top of what reports are working and to trade the reports that are working. So what I would say about Q1 is Q1 family money trades were still working very well, but they were starting to get troubled. So that's how I would look at Q1, is that we had a great fourth quarter with family money trades. They were working incredibly well. And then Q1, we started facing more challenges. So, I don't want to lie and say Q1 was a walk in the park, because it wasn't. It was more of a difficult quarter. And we pivoted out of Q1 looking into ways to work a changing world and a changing market. And I think that's, noted on this slide. That's how we came up with trying the market opens. And we're always doing earnings. But I think in the last 2 quarters of earnings, we've come up with ways to trade them better and less complicated. And we're going to also have a feature in the new software that'll help with that. So I would say earnings has been helpful, and then market opens is looking like it's going to be a great new way of trading. And just Q2 is looking like it's going to be a strong quarter.
No, thanks, Leigh. And Leigh, if you could start to prepare some of the top trades. I'm gonna give you screen control in a second here. I want to maybe
Okay.
show some of those trades. And while you do that, total transparency is what we're all about. Definitely family money trades, which is something that I think was really helpful for us in 2021. There's still family money trades that are still working very nicely, but overall we've been very careful, and we're not scared to all of a sudden take away a family money trade, or giving that status. But what would you say that the distinction has been in Q2 compared to Q1, right? Because you mentioned the war in Ukraine, right? And I remember us having a challenge similar during this whole last 2 years with COVID, where all of a sudden the macro COVID environment kind of uh, made it so that some of our news events were not having the same reaction. I'm thinking back to some of the trades in Q2. One of the things that was really odd was you had reports like the jobs reports, or maybe I'm confusing it with other ones, where there was literally a delayed reaction, or where something that usually we're expecting to break out like immediately, and now it's breaking out 20 seconds later. I don't know if there are any reports like that that come to mind in Q2, but when did the whole Ukraine war, Russia war, like how did that, when did that really affect us? And what's been like the overall position on some of our breakout trades beyond how we pivoted to market? Like what's like now we're in May. If you think back to March, April, May, like have you seen any improvement in terms of our breakout trades? What comes to mind?
Okay. Well, definitely. I mean, I think the markets are somewhat more used to there being a war. They're getting used to the idea of inflation. There's certainly much more volatility in the markets, but reports are definitely starting to work better. I mean, but you have to be careful about the reports. A report like housing starts and building permits, which is coming up next week, I'm not as confident about that report working all that well as something like today's University of Michigan, which has consumer confidence and inflation as a component in the report. So the key for making things better has been realizing that gold was becoming troubled as an index because of inflation, the war, and cryptocurrency, the effect on gold. And we were able to pivot from breakout trades to range trades on quite a few reports. And that has made trading reports viable. So as you know, the key is pivoting, finding indexes that are working. But I'm also feeling that breakouts are starting to be more impactful. But the issue of news responding, the indexes responding later, that's a generalized issue that we're definitely seeing across the board. News reports are just behaving and starting to react later than they used to, where sometimes they used to be an instant. Now, sometimes you might get no response for 10 seconds, then you'll get what I call a news move. So it's something we just adjusted to by having longer cancellations, sometimes no cancellations on trades, just waiting for the news to hit. So we're definitely seeing there's definite changes to the market that, you never know when they're going to go back to the way they used to be, but you have to trade the way it is, not the way it used to be. And that's the challenge, is being able to pivot fast enough so that you don't get too badly hurt while you're realizing that your typical method has to change. And it's very honestly, as you say, full disclosure, when you think about the WASD report, something is going on with that report. It was almost an every month winner, and it's become a 50% winner with a lot of whipsaws. So we know something's up with that report. So we'll do a deep dive on that report now, and we'll see if there's a way to fix it. And that's, the challenge is to fix things that aren't working as fast as humanly possible, or to improve the things that have become troubled. So, and that's a challenge for any business, even, if you're selling sandwiches and things, people don't like the meat you're using all of a sudden. You have to change to a different ingredients. Trading is not really very different from that.
Good stuff, Lee. And you know what? I think I'm gonna wait till later to go over some of the top trades. Let's revisit that later. It'll be a little bit easier of a transition. I hope that's okay.
Yep.
But for me, a couple of things. The big picture from the trading performance is, and I want Lee to show the trades, because even though there's been trading has definitely been challenging. I mean, Lee, just last week, in terms of our kind of how we're preparing to release our JB version 10. I mean, I have so many trades of Lee making lots and lots of money. So there's definitely been lots of great opportunities to make money in these markets. But really, what I took away is that thanks to Lee's leadership, and then I'm also going to talk about the support we have behind the scenes, we've really evolved our trading methodology, right? Whereas in the past, we really were the breakout, just kind of doing the news breakout. Now, right, every single morning, and I know you've been doing this for a while now, but you actually run trade rooms for the market opens, right? And that's something that I want you to talk about in a little bit. Beyond that, we also have stock earning trades, which have been not just successful, they've been um, home runs. I mean, that was my first time trading stock earnings via future in Q1. And then, unfortunately, timing wise, I was away for most of the trades in April. But so now there's so many different options, and we'll get to that later when we talk about our software updates. But overall, there's been a lot of great trades out there. Certainly, it's not been a home runs every single time, and we're not limited to the breakouts. So that's, I think, for me, the takeaway that I want people to take home is that we now have just an arsenal of tools where we can do a market open trade. We could trade earning trades. There's so many different ways that we could trade the markets, and we're not limited to just a specific news event. There's so many different things, and maybe we'll get to that when we talk about the software a little bit. Okay, Lee?
Yep.
All right.
So
So
just to, so let
yes,
me just jump in for a second. So
sure.
here's how I look at what you just said. So what Eric is saying essentially is that we're trading more discretionarily, if that's a word. But the way that I see it is we're keeping our DNA, which is trading on your own schedule, on your own time, by trading in a somewhat discretionary manner with our software at specific times. So we're not just randomly opening the trade room and saying, let's trade oil. We're saying, let's open the trade room 30 minutes before oil opens, and we're going to trade that specific open exactly at 9 o'clock. But realize that might be a little bit of a discretionary trade as well as a scheduled trade. So that's how what we're doing is different. It expands what we're doing, and it's something to realize that our software easily now can pivot to trading all day long in almost any way that you want, if that's what you want to do. So our software has become a much more powerful tool than just a tool for trading breakouts. So that's how I would frame it, Eric. A little in
No,
my
that's
my opinion.
No, I think that's a really, really awesome way to how you described it and how you characterized it. And on the software, I just want to let you know, like, I am so excited for our software release, which we're going to talk about some of the major updates. But really, when you see and we talk about the software updates, I mean, we now have a tool that, like, even if you weren't coming into the trade room, anybody who's trading on NinjaTrader or who's trading futures, we have such a powerful software that can do so many different things. And to your point, Lee, we didn't lose our DNA because all the different trading setups that we have are still behind the premise where even if it's a little bit more discretionary, that they're still evolved around the time that it's appointment-based trading, whether it
Right.
is a market open, whether it is a high economic news release, or if it is a quarterly earnings, whatever it is, that we're still time based and we don't want to be sitting in front of the computer for hours. And so can't wait to get into that. This is the part where I think if you're a current member, or even if you're someone that's just kind of a fan or on the sidelines, I think you're gonna like this part, because the point of this is really, I want you guys to kind of know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe you guys have a imagination about how it is that we do the different things, and I want to tell a little bit and show you the human side of us and how we run our business. How do we roll out all the different things that we do? So one of the things, and I mentioned Jay before, Jay Offner, my partner, are the DMMs, right? The daily market movers. So, Lee, tell us about behind the scenes how that works out, because I know it's not as simple as him making it, you sending it out. Like there's way more to that, but kind of give me the short story, because I want to talk about the other stuff too. Tell me about how we get through these DMMs, the importance of researching, who's helping us, how do we make sure that we have good daily DMMs, and what they are for those who don't know what they are.
Okay, so number one, the DMM. is the daily market mover. So, I mean, that's our trade report. It comes out the day before an event and it tells us how we're going to trade. Now, the one thing, so basically, and it came from what we call the high impact report alert. If you don't mind, if I take this screen for a minute, I can show, I think
Sure.
if it'll let me, I don't know if I can take it, Eric, or you might
I,
have to
I,
give it.
I'll,
Oh,
I'll,
no, I
I'll,
got it.
I'll,
I can do it. I can do it.
you can.
Tell me if you can, okay, you should be able to see my screen in 1 second. And so here's the old HIRA. This is what our reports looked like in 2017. I mean, and they were pretty good back then. It had the basics of everything we're doing now, but here's what a sample looks like today. It's quite a bit different. It's got very important changes. The journal, which is probably the key difference, is the last 6 trades and what happened in those trades based on the settings that are in this yellow line. So that's the thing to remember. The biggest challenge going forward for us is to constantly being able to update, because the market sometimes will get into the trade room and the market might be so volatile that we have to change everything. And the way that we thought we were going to take the trade is going to be different. So the way that it works is I get an email early in the day, like in the early afternoon, from Jay, who designed this whole program, has done a tremendous amount of research on these reports. He sends me the current DMMs, and then I go through it, email it out to our lists, and then over the years, and this has been, a scenario that Jay had to be willing to give up his control over all of this analysis. And he didn't know me from a hole in the wall when I first started working here. So it took time for me to convince Jay, hey, listen, we have to do these DMMs differently. And then we came up with getting rid of the HIRA completely, coming out with the DMM, and we've changed so much that now we have sometimes a monthly change to the reports. So the greatest challenge is the constant testing, because as you know, these markets are complicated, and volatile and changing. The market 3 months ago is nothing like it is today. So that requires different reports or changes to the reports. And that means we have to constantly test more and more. And it's a mind boggling amount of hours go into it. So that's behind the scenes. Chantal, who some of you know in the room, is another team member, and she does a tremendous amount of testing for us, finding different setups, alternatives, because we have a lot of different trade setups. We have range trades, we have zones, we have breakout trades, we have the trap trade, which is a reversal type trade. So the testing requires us to go through those different formats, and she's been instrumental in helping us find newer reports to generate. And that's the backstory about how the testing works.
Yeah, and thank you, Leigh, by the way. You did that pretty smoothly. And thanks, by the way, for your feedback. Everyone should be able to see my screen now, again, the behind the scenes. So I'll definitely pass it. When I start talking about the software again, I'll give you an opportunity to show people some of the trades that you've done.
No problem.
But that's actually, you made a good point, right, about uh, kind of the trust that you've built, with Jay, and even bringing new players like Chantal. I'll just tell everyone very, very directly. Right now, our two biggest investments are in testing. Okay, and that's we have it's Leigh, as Leigh runs a trade room. We have Chantal, who that's kind of her one of our core focuses is to assist Leigh, and Leigh will kind of guide her on which trades, like he mentioned the WASD, we got to change that up a little bit. So we literally have another team member that's dedicated to doing that behind the scenes analysis, working with Leigh, and then there are other levels of, I was looking for a metaphor. Basically, after all that's done, Leigh and Chantal working together, then Jay also kind of provides that oversight, looks at things. And then where am I in the process? Remember, I'm just a dancing monkey, right? My job is to kind of, I'm the marketing guy. No, but in all seriousness, where I come into the play is exactly how you may have seen in the trade room. What I do is when Leigh is doing an actual trade room and there are multiple setups, I'll communicate with Leigh. And I have my own separate trading account where I'm gonna run another a way of trading the trade. Most of the times, it's usually the I like when Leigh does the nuance because I want him to take the risk. To me, that's part of the reason why I feel the value comes in of when people are paying money for our trade room. We're taking that risk of testing things, and that's sure, we want to always be in a position where we're showing you that we're making profit consistently, right? And that every year we're showing you making X, Y, Z profits. But at the same time, there's also a point where we need to be able to test different things. So when Leigh tests something new, what I like to do is I like to follow the DMM to the T. This way we have two scenarios, right? And so this way we could at least see different things because you could do all the simulation testing you want, but that does not replace actual live testing to account for slippage and other factors. So that's where I come in. I'm not just a dancing monkey. I actually do tests. And actually, listen, I would say for me, behind the scenes, I've been trading a lot more. The earnings trades I mentioned, those are so fun. I traded those in January. And then I also, this is going to link back to the software. This is part of the reason why we delayed our software release in December, because originally the scope of what we were looking to accomplish, I'm not saying it's all because of me, but I'll just explain. You guys ever see that show? You may if Undercover Boss, where the idea is the CEO of a company kind of goes in disguise and then he kind of like goes in on the trenches, thinking about Models, the sporting good ones, where the guy goes in and he kind of sees. There's a lot of pizza one examples. Well, it was only until I started to get back into testing where the software to me was intimidating to me. And I'm only in my mid 30s, and I know a lot of the people in our group are more of a mature age, right? But even me, like that was confusing to me. And so that's only one piece, but I debriefed with Leigh and I said, you know what, I want to make things so simple. I don't want anyone to get intimidated. I want it to be very simple. And if I want to do an earnings trade or if I want to do a breakout trade. So safety was in mind. And that's one of the things when we get to the software update, you're going to see we really put a lot of thought into that. Okay. So let me get back to the behind the scenes, even though that is behind the scenes what happened with our software release and why we kind of delayed it a little bit, because safety first and foremost is very, very important to us. Tell us a little bit, Leigh, about running a trade room. I mean, I'm almost scared to ask you to elaborate on this because there's just so much time that you put into running a trade room. um, you want to tell people about kind of behind the scenes how you prepare for a trade room, kind of for people who are not with us. What are the typical trading times that you do, and anything that you want to share, what you appreciate most, because I feel when people ask me what's the thing that makes our company special, you know, beyond your passion, my passion to really help people in this financial market where it's just there's no trust anywhere and it's really hard to right now you go on YouTube, there's so many trading gurus out there, right? And Leigh and I, right, we've never jumped to crypto, we never jumped to NFTs or we've been in our lane, and our niche has been always been news trading and specifically in futures trading. But with all that said, tell us a little about running the trade room. And what I was going to say is that our trade room is where the magic happens, because some of the folks that are talking right now, like who was it, Brian, who left. And by the way, guys, let me know. I'm happy to pull up those trades. Just give me some feedback if you want Leigh to show some of the top trades for this year. I want to get feedback to make sure that you guys want to see that. I really feel that the trade room, even with all this fancy rebranding, that's where the magic happens. It's our community where we're all together. And you could speak more to it than I am because you're there every day leading our group. So tell us about the trade room experience.
Okay, so our trade room, I think in some ways is a little different than a lot of other rooms because we're historical. We're based on history. We're based on the history of what happened on this event in the previous time. So that's what we're constantly dealing with. So that means in our trade room, not only do we have to have a setup, we often have to have a previous video or a group of videos. So the preparation time is a lot. Fortunately, I never realized and I never planned for how I would wind up doing this because when I first started working here, I was winging it. I'd never run a trade room before. But I knew that if I recorded almost everything, that would help in the future. And so I have so many videos available, so I don't have to spend 800 hours preparing for each individual event. But for instance, like this coming week, we have building permits and housing starts comes to mind, or US retail, which is a family money trade that's coming up this week. I have almost all the videos of the US retail trades, and we can look at them in the trade room so we know what's been working, what hasn't been working. And, that to me is probably the most important aspect of the trade room. The interesting other thing in the trade room is my goal is to teach, to help you make money. And what I see in the trade room is members making more money than me on a regular basis. And that's because there are times, as Eric was saying before, that I have to test live with real money setups that I would tell you not to test because we need to know if they work definitively because sometimes back testing doesn't really tell you the truth. So sometimes someone will say to me, well, how come your account's not $8 million? And it's often because we're testing things that aren't ready for prime time yet. And that can sometimes damage an account. But what I see in the trade room, and I was not a professional trader when I started doing this, is I see people making more money than me using the tools that we are presenting. And that is when I think it's a successful service. So that's what I see as the key of the trade room, people making money on the ideas that we're presenting. Obviously, we want to keep our account growing. It's really important. But our trade room, it's a place where we never stop anyone from asking questions. We never give anyone a hard time, and it's a safe place in these crazy worlds. We don't get much into politics every now and then, just a tiny bit. But really, it's about trading and just trying to figure out together how to make money in these markets. And that's how I see the trade room.
Thank you, Leigh. I'm getting some feedback. Thank you, Derek. And also, I want to address a comment from Andrew. Honestly, I know that Leigh. I say I know. Continue to get great feedback from folks that Leigh is such a great educator, and I really feel that it's on me to do a better job in marketing and getting people into the trade room who are already trade room members, or then even people on the sidelines. Because make no mistake about it, we have the education out there for the software, and you should be able to go solo with the software and learning how our software works. But I just feel that the all the things that Leigh covers in the trade room, it's fantastic. And even me, right? I learned so much too because I never knew about a lot of the different trading setups that Leigh is doing, and there's a lot more for me to learn from Leigh. And Leigh is also an interesting fellow. You mentioned politics. I know you do. I know you definitely talk a lot about music, which I'm also learning a lot about the music history. But I see that we're slowly creeping up to 12:45. I want to just make a couple of quick comments here. So behind the scenes, running the trade room is a lot of work, and I just want to say we appreciate everyone for coming in every day. And if you're on the sidelines right now, the trade room is where you want to be. That's where you're going to get. That's just like me. When I was a former member, there was no trade room, but I connected with someone, and that's what I want to also help build. I want to help build a better community where traders are not just connecting with me and Leigh, but they're connecting with each other. And we talked about doing like a private Facebook group. We're going to explore more. Weekly content, every weekend now we've been very consistent um, about doing a weekly podcast. So on Fridays, Leigh does a weekly podcast where he kind of does a recap of all the different trades for the week. And what's the whole goal of the podcast is that it wasn't just another video on YouTube. We want to be able to go out there on iTunes and tune in all the different streams like Spotify, so that when you're driving in your car, or whether you're just relaxing in the comfort of your home and you have your phone on you, that you could listen kind of the podcast. So we also do the trade of the week, the weekly schedule on Sundays. So there's a lot of great content that we do every single day. So let me move on to changes. One of them is our streams, right? When March of 2020, one of the first things I remember, and within that month or the next month, I finally, well, we had a trade room, but I wanted how every company wanted to make an impact and do good. Well, our way of doing good was just opening the doors up to our trade room, and we've reached. I don't have the actual statistic on me, but it's definitely like hundreds of thousands of views collectively of people that were coming into our live streams, our trade room streams on YouTube. We did a Facebook for a while as well, and just 2 weeks ago, we finally, we have people that are paying a lot of money for our trade room. I say a lot of money. People paying, they're putting their money up there for our trade room. It's great value, and there's always been trade rooms that we never done live streams for, but we thought now is a time to pivot back, and we're only going to be doing one stream a week, and we want to make sure that our trade room it continues to be a very special place, and that's where we want people to come into our trade room. So that's one change that we made, is we're doing one live stream every week. Now, Leigh, I hear you typing in the background. Talk to me about trading room dynamics, trading methodology. Help me build up to the Software 10 release, because that's where we're going now. And if you're with us now, don't leave, because this is the really exciting part. Talk to me about some of the trading methods that I'm going to be in our software and how that integrate for our new release.
Okay, so yeah, I was just typing an answer for somebody that was asking a question, so no problem. The new software, we're going to address a lot of the things that you were talking about personally. You wanted some more safety, uh, some safety issues put into the software regarding, how many contracts you're trading, whether you're live or sim, things of that nature. But we're also breaking out some of the different trade types that we're trading, earnings trades as opposed to range trades. So we're trying to make it a little bit more individualized for the different types of trades that we have, market opens. And then I'm not going to even talk about a brand new trade type that I think is potentially a really exciting one, the magnet idea. We're going to talk about that much more in the webinar this coming week. And we're just improving the way we do earnings. We're just always improving on what we do and always trying to add new features. We're relabeling a lot of the inputs to make it simpler. We're going to make a lot of the inputs go away to make it simpler to use the software. But critically and most importantly, we want this. My goal when I started updating the software without even really talking to you about it, my goal in the back of my mind was always to make it a discretionary trading tool, because I realized that the way that we could make our software available to everyone as opposed to just our members was if it became a generalized piece of software, not just something that could be used on breakout trades. And that's what we've really been doing for the past 5 years in updating the software. So it truly, in my opinion, is a standalone product that doesn't need to be married to 10-minute trades. It's perfectly married to us if you want it to be, but it also is a great standalone piece of software for any NinjaTrader user now. And that's something I always wanted to do to it because I thought it had tremendous value.
No, Lee, spot on. I gave you a lot of credit before about like the trade room, but that's to your point. One of the things that maybe folks don't realize is that even from day one, you always had ideas about evolving our software. And I would say there are times too where you kind of pushed me a little bit in making some investments. Not that I didn't want to do them, but not realizing how important they were. Now for this one, this is our 10-year anniversary, right? And throughout the years, we've definitely, I could tell you very honestly that we've definitely spent, I think, well, I don't want to say precisely, but tens of thousands of dollars on our software. Okay. Um, in our latest update has been probably the biggest investment that we made into our software, and we really wanted it to be special, and really wanted it to, like you said, be a standalone product that you're able to trade without having to just do one thing and what following the DMM. There's so many different methodologies to it. So I just want to say that it's I take the responsibility for the delay, but the safety was really important. So in December, we kind of talked about it to a kind of a select group of folks that have been with us. But I'm excited to announce to you guys that we are very close to our release, and I'll tell you the release date in just a second. But here are some of the high-level, big updates that we're making to our software. Now, I just want to address one quick thing. Andrew mentioned about a feature that we actually have, and maybe that's something that I'm going to be the pioneer to show how that works. And that's, well, Andrew was talking about how a lot of the trades for him, he's on the DMM trades, right? That there are a lot of trades where he can't be in front of a computer because he's not available during that time. And I know, Lee, that we have a feature where you're able to do it. What do you call it? Like an auto trade kind
Yeah,
of thing,
we call it unattended mode.
unattended mode. So I just want to address that, Andrew, and let you know that I'm going to be the pioneer to show that and to teach that better. But let's focus on the major updates. So we're actually planning, as Lee mentioned, next Thursday we're going to be doing another presentation to really dive into our software update. Um, do you want to just very, very high level, because I want people been with us for the full hour. There's 8 minutes left. Tell us high level what the magnet trade is first. What is that all about?
So the magnet trade it's just an event that we see taking place in the trade room over and over again, where indexes get pulled into the high and low of the day. So it's a trade that's going to allow us to automate it uh, and to manually be alerted for it, and to automate the trade as well. So it's pretty exciting, pretty interesting. That's a big update, and that's actually something that will grow. It could actually become a strategy on its own. It's got so much potential, in my opinion.
Okay.
The more that
And
I think about it.
okay. The trap trace, is there any way you could explain that high level without confusing anybody?
Yeah, I mean, very basically, if you've been in the trade room, or even if you haven't, a lot of times, just when you're doing a trade, even when you're trading discretionary, a lot of times you don't want to trade at the high of a bar. You might want to trade at a small retrace of the previous bar. And so we're creating a setup that lets you do just that. So instead of trading the breakout of a range, we're going to trade the same direction, but it'll be the pullback of the range. So that's a big change in one of our setups. So that's a whole new trade, really.
Okay. Okay. Now the safety, wrote safety traits. Really, what I meant to write there is just the safety in our putting together a trade. Let me give you an example. I wanted to make sure that when you're putting in, let's say you're trying to trade two contracts on a breakout trade, right? I wanted to make sure that it's very clean, and you understand that you're not putting in 100, or you're not putting in the typing in parameters for your stop loss. Um, that it's very cleanly labeled, and then there may be some things that will warn you, to that effect. So you'll see a lot of things we're talking about right now. Behind the scenes, you're going to see in a minute our timeline. We're going to be doing a webinar next Thursday, but then visuals are always helpful, right? So we're going to be doing a video series as well where we're going to showcase some of these things. But for the safety thing, for the safety part, just that's me, my experience. And I said, you know what? When I started trading more closely in January, I said, it's so easy to make a mistake here. It's so easy to miss, you could easily put in something there. And, over the years, we never had any feedback on this. People have been very careful. But I just felt as we expand the software, that was something that maybe there wasn't a realization that before it was very limited. Now with all these fields, so safety was top of mind, and with that is the relabeling. There's some things that I know Leigh's doing for the earnings trades. A lot of this stuff isn't stuff that we pulled out ourselves. It's from feedback that we got from our members. One of them being for earnings trades, right? I could talk about this one. When we do our earnings trade setups, sometimes the pending orders are hovering there, and you're having to manually move up and down and adjust them manually, and it's very stressful. And so there's this new adjustment button that's going to help to take away that stress. So that's really cool. That's going to even help us perform even better for earnings trades. Tell me about the break even button quickly.
So the break even button, just instead of it doing something automatically, you can program the break even button. If you want it to go break even plus 2, you'll be able to program it for break even plus 2 instead
Right.
of just break even plus a tick.
Sure. And so there's a lot of robust updates to our software. It's been 10 years. One of the things that Leigh asked the programmer to do is to do a coding cleanup, because we want to make sure a detailed review after 10 years. Maybe there's some nuances before. Want to make sure that it's running super fast, it's super clean, and super safe. So here's the timeline, okay? And this is just the surface, right? We're gonna really dive into these updates so you understand what the magnet trade is, what the trap trace is, the safety, the relabeling, the earning trade adjustments. We're going to be kicking off a video series, as you see here. So next Thursday, we're going to do a live webinar. Actually going to have a few other speakers that are going to join us who we're friends with that. It's going to be really exciting. I don't have the time yet, but we'll make sure to invite everyone on the call today. Then, yeah, so during that next week software update, we're gonna deep dive into all the updates to the software, right, and explaining what are the updates that we're doing, how that's gonna benefit us. That's next Thursday. Then between basically now and end of the month, we're going to be doing a series of updates where instead of having 100 different live presentations, Leigh's going to be doing videos showcasing the different updates. Okay, so what's the expected release date? There it is, June 1st, 2022, which means pretty much May is your opportunity where we're going to open up doors to come in, and it's going to be a very special opportunity. Okay, so definitely during the next few weeks, we're going to be doing a lot of emailing to make sure you don't miss out on a very special release of version 10. And before I close off, I know I know Leigh didn't have a chance to show those trades. Thing is that I wanted to get through all this content. I'm behind the scenes. I'm actually working on oh, Leigh, do you actually have control now? Do you want to show us a trade?
Yeah, let me show a couple, and let me just comment why it's so important that we do show these trades. Because as I was
Sure.
sitting here, I was thinking, what's so important about this trade? What's beautiful about this trade is it represents all of the possibilities, all of the reasons why someone gets involved in trading. When you see a real trade with real money, as we did on this Apple trade, when it's over, in 2 seconds, I had $970 in my bank account, in my trading account. We realize, of course, not every trade is a winner like that, but it represents the possibility that the majority of your trades can be winners. And that's why people do this. It's the possibility, the hope, and the fantastic feeling when you make money trading. So that's why it's important to look at the winners, because it gives you the whole concept. It reminds you why you're doing this. And it reminds you to be smart, safe, and careful about the way that you trade. And that's why we think our software is so valuable, because it gets better and better each upgrade in making it easier and safer, hopefully, obviously, to make money on these trades. But $970 in 4 seconds on that Apple trade. It wouldn't have been possible without our software because we couldn't have gotten the orders on the chart at the right time. So that's why we spend all the time updating the software so that we can all have as many of these trades as humanly possible.
Thank you, Lee. And stay. You don't need to give it back to me. You could stay on the screen right there. It's fine. Unless was there another trade you wanted to show too?
Here's Facebook.
Okay.
This was Facebook, and we changed the way we're trading it dramatically this quarter. Facebook, here it comes, 405, February 2nd earnings, 1375 on Facebook. So very awesome trade. And again, it's possibilities. It's the possibilities that keeps us going. Everybody wants these trades. Okay, go ahead.
No. Stay there. No, listen. Thank you, Lee, for showcasing the Apple, Facebook, and that amazing WASD trade. Um, you mentioned the possibilities. That's the thing. Earning trades, that was just a possibility 3 years ago, right? Now it's a reality, right? So we see time and time again there are these monster winners, and time again there are also losers, which is why bankroll management is so important. But also, as I said earlier, investing in research, and that's what we're doing. I could tell you right now that marketing budget is very little, research and development very high right now, like all in on getting our software to where we want it to be, as well as our testing. That's our focus. So with that, I had a closeout slide, but I think I'd rather show the $1,500 winner. It's Eric here. I just want to say, behind the scenes, when you don't see me, you should know that my passion, it's never about my personal trading account. It's always about helping our members make money, and that's what I'm focusing on. That's what Lee and I are here for. This is our 10-year anniversary. In fact, that was the trade that you're showing right now. I mentioned that I made this trade like 10 years ago in the laptop. And you know what's crazy is that, yes, we had a little bite this week, but last month, this is the trade the same trade where people are talking about this and that, why don't you, we've been very consistent. That same trade that I made $700 with 9 years ago on my laptop, this is the same exact trade. So this is an opportunity that wasn't a one and done. It continues to perform really well. So
I,
Lee and
I
I just,
have that trade. I have that trade.
oh, this one right here.
This is the
Yeah,
trade you're talking about.
go ahead and play it. Yeah, so let's play it. I don't know if we're gonna hear the sound, but that's it. One contract, $700,
Yep,
and
that was
and
real.
yeah, and there I was in the Majestic Deli in Midtown Manhattan, and that's what I meant by the being the city. That's just a video I did later in DC. But anyways, guys, we want you to know that we really, I want to use the word appreciate, but the bottom line is we love you guys, and that Lee and I were here for you, and we want to make sure that the next 10 years, that we're also with you, that we're getting better, smarter. So get ready, get excited. We have a lot of great content that we're going to release this weekend. We appreciate your support. So definitely, as our marketing budget is down very little, help spread the word. Invite people to the presentations that we're doing, because at the end of the day, it's all about helping each other. And so, any last words, Lee? I'll let you close it.
I guess I just want to say to everybody what I always say. I'll see everybody in the trade room. So make your way in, learn our new setups, and trade with us. Learn to trade with us so you can make more money than me. That's what I'd like to see happen. I'll see you all in the trade room.
Stay engaged, guys. Stay connected with us. Have a great, fantastic weekend. It's Friday the 13th. This is our official kickoff of our JB version 10 release, which is coming soon. So get excited, get ready. I know I'm getting a lot of questions about how do I reserve a spot, or how do I reserve the software. We're going to address all of that. We're not going to leave anybody behind, but just be ready to engage with us, and just keep an eye on your inbox, because we'll definitely be communicating with you. So with that, this ends episode 24 of our podcast, our halftime report for 2022. Lee, it's been a pleasure connecting with you. I love doing these, and I want to continue doing these more consistently. But seriously, guys, thank you very much. Have a great weekend and enjoy. Bye, everyone.